sons and daughters of MILFs. How has your mom being super hot affected your life? Control F kids username doubt and disappoint. Remember people, your stories aren't considered true until you post a picture of said MILF. Everything turns into I'd bang ya mom after any argument. I can't seem to have a normal discussion with no one. My mom had a relationship with my 5th grade teacher, flirted with all my friends as well as my sister's boyfriends. Then she divorced my dad, who's a pastor. I would say she was a poor role model. Now she lives with a dentist in a $5 million house with an ocean view in Florida. Growing up, my mom modeled for Harley Davidson and no fear. My friends all made comments, and I would act like it bothered me, but it really didn't. Not like it matters. But I wouldn't have preferred an ugly mom. She had a great confidence about her that she instilled in my brothers and me. The drawback was, I was a child of divorce, and my mom had no shortage of random dudes wanting to get it on with her. And of course, they would pretend to be really into her kids for a while, until they broke up. Then we'd never hear from them again, of course. It made me more annoyed than sad though. It led to a lot of lewd jokes by my friends growing up, which I had to hit them for. Also sometimes my dad would talk about sex with my mom in front of other people, which was awkward. Not like graphic description, but it's weird to listen to your dad mention his active sex life to your high school football position coach. But yeah, from 13-18 there were a lot of kids for your mom is pretty hot dude. I wouldn't mind getting some alone time with her, to which I'd have to respond by saying duck you dude that's my mom. I mean the alternative would be saying yeah my mom is pretty hot, which is just ducking weird and unacceptable. Not my mom, but my dad. As some background, he looks a bit like Thor in the Avengers movies. He is Norwegian too. Throughout my childhood my friends and their moms always told me how good looking he is. It didn't help that he was newly divorced. I was always so uncomfortable when they were like wow your dad is so good looking, or I see where you get your looks from. When we go to dinner, women, and the occasional man, will buy him a drink or make any excuse to talk to him. Went on vacation to a resort in Arizona. Everyone stared at him. People will ask me if he's my boyfriend. I'm 18F and he's 45 but looks about 35. It's annoying. Edit. Check out our Pimp Your Mom for Karma. You're searching for FAP stories. Guess I will come back later when this is interesting. Pretty normal, I think. This, of course, until I broke both arms. My mom is really hot and it sucks because I feel like, as her daughter, I kind of have to live up to how she looks. Friends are always telling me that my mom is awesome and it makes me feel awkward lol. She's really stylish, though, so I get to borrow her clothes a lot. Typically I would get jokes about banging my mom, always laughed it off and moved on. Then into high school I realized that it was a backhanded compliment of sorts. Then started turning the tables on the jokers. They'd say my mom is hot blah blah blah. Then I'd say yep that's why I look normal and you and your mom look like the offspring of Chris Farley. They stopped after that. I knew a girl in high school who had a mom that was pretty young and very attractive. It was something that bothered her a lot and caused her self-esteem issues because whenever they would go anywhere, her mom would get all the attention and was a type of person who loved it. The guys at school would also talk a lot about how hot her mom was and always made jokes about it, which she usually brushed off, but you could tell they bothered her. I'm not sure, but I'll ask my kids. Wait, this isn't our circular jerk? How did this post escape into the real world? I had more friends but at the same time they paid less attention to me. It was okay though because every time she walked by I would be the only one paying attention to Smash Brothers. I'm a dude. I've been told quite a few times that my dad is pretty hot. I've also been told, by different people, that I'll look just like him, so it makes me feel pretty good about my future. I get weird middle-aged teachers and mutual friends come up and say your mom is quite pretty, and then just trail off and still look at her. It's weird, but weirder still when they later say I look a lot like her. Well, I was always larger than my friends, so any comment about my mother usually resulted in a good punch to the arms, chest, kidneys. Hey man, Your mom is stacked. You ever seen her naked? No. And you should shut the hell up. For real dude. Total MILF. Duck you. Joel. Punch his sternum. OWW. Duckman. I'm just saying. I noticed my mom being super hot, and thus why people were always acting odd around her when I entered puberty. So, like a horny teenager with no other women in his life, I started to fap to pics of her in bikini, and later I started to spy on her. When I was 17, I was spying on her in the shower and she saw me. She angrily shut the door and said, "We'll talk about this later." Holy duck, I was dreading that talk. So yeah. Later she came into my bedroom to discuss what happened. I sat on my bed with my head in shame. So it took me a while to notice she was only wearing a towel. She came sit next to me, and in a tone of voice that I never heard from her before, but that I definitely liked, she said, "AskReddit hates when their fap stories don't have a happy ending." On the negative side, everybody objectifies her. On the positive side, she makes an excellent decorative set piece. I think everyone posting should accompany their post with a picture of their mom to prove that they are, indeed, a MILF. For science and whatnot. My mom used to substitute teach in my junior high when I was in 7th grade. Kids had a field day with it, and I absolutely hated it. Now, I don't really care. I have good genes, I guess. A lot of is at your sister, and while your mom is beautiful every time a friend meets her, every time. It's unfortunate I got none of her good looks. I always worry that a date will see her and no longer be interested. But it hasn't happened. So, doesn't affect my life much. Just your usual teenage self-consciousness. Doubled. Well, both my mom and dad are hot. Growing up I was dreaded with the "your mom is a total MILF" statement, so I stopped having friends over. Then when I was older and needed to do a group project, I invited my group over. There were some girls in my group, and when they left they kept telling me that my dad was really cute and good looking. Nobody is ever allowed to come over anymore. Ever. My mum was 21 when she had me, making her one of the younger mums among my peers during school. All my guy friends were in love with her, telling me they'd wank over her every night, etc classic British boy stuff, which was gross. I had a situation where I had a crush on a guy and I invited him to my house. He only accepted the invitation due to my mum being there and only dated me for 3 weeks just so he can look at my mum. Awkward. She's a hot sociopath, so she went out of her way to be mean to her female relatives. Due to her confidence in her looks, she thought I was ugly, would call my sister fat, mocked her sister for teenage acne, and lectured her niece on not getting knocked up. BC, the niece was hot enough to have guys coming around to try to do that. Her style wasn't to build up other women. I never heard her compliment other women. I had terrible self-esteem as a kid and teen. I felt ugly and unwanted. The only upshot to my mom's beauty craziness was guys were put off by her attitude and laziness. She lost her looks and never had her LTR after my dad divorced her. TL: Dr. Karma catches up to some attractive sacks of crap. Came for the pictures. Still, I came. My wife is excited to see me, also a female, get older and hopefully look more like my mother. Basically, friend, dude, your mom is hot. Me, shut up. Brad, friend's dad, no really, your mom is hot. Me, shut up. MR, Mackie, and thanks for the ride. There was also a time I got out of a ticket because of her being attractive. Strangely, not as much as you'd maybe think. My mum has said she's had a few guys compliment her, but I've never been around to witness it. And when I went to school there were 1 or 2 occasions when some kids commented on how they thought she was hot. But that was it. Really. This will probably get buried. But a good friend of mine, who was also a family friend, took a picture of my family and cropped his face onto my dad's and posted it saying "me and my happy family." This was 2 years ago and my buddies still bump it on social media every week or so. She's obsessed with her appearance and looking youthful. People have said that she looks like she's in her 20s. She's 45. So it's not just her opinion. Anyways, I can't stop thinking of her as old. She looks young but never acts the part. She has the attitude of either a crabby grandma or a cheery grandma. I don't think I've ever seen her do something youthful, like dancing or singing or even much laughing. Ironically, I am less than 18 and look like I'm in my late 20s early 30s. Yes, we're both Asian. My mom has DD fake boobs, bleach blonde hair, and has an attractive BMI. I always was told by the guys how hot my mom was. Never was really a bother when I was in grade school. Now that I am 26, I'd still not too much of a bother, but she is always very preoccupied with how she looks. I just wish I could go in public with my mom without her always so made up. As a female, I do like to look pretty in public, but sometimes I am just in jeans, shorts, a t-shirt, and no makeup. My mom is unable to do that. I don't care that she gets attention. If that's her prerogative, I'm glad she is happy, but I can't empathize with the constant need to be always done up. For example, one Xmas morning we were all in the living room, so in pajamas, no makeup, hair unkempt, and someone was taking a picture of the whole family. My mother was covering her face and trying not to be in the picture, essentially making a scene, because she was not ready. I mean, we are all family here. We love you with and without the makeup. That's what bothers me about having a MILF. The MILF life has consumed her, I feel. She has also recently started tanning after years of telling me that it causes skin cancer. I feel like she has forsaken herself to look hot. So, in short, it hasn't really affected my life as much it has affected hers. I'm just on the side watching my mom become devoured by her DDs. Well, she had sex with my dad, which totally affected my life. I think the biggest thing is it gave me really high standards for women I date. Growing up, all my male friends fancied my mother. It never really bothered me, and she finds it funny and flattering at the same time. I grew up in a ridiculously wealthy area. Almost everyone's mom was a MILF. No one brought it up for the same reason that the US doesn't launch a nuke at Russia, mutually assured destruction. That being said, as at 13-year-old, you had more than enough wank material. I was mostly invisible through school, and then my mom started teaching at my high school and I went from the weirdly quiet girl to Mrs. Drake's daughter. Like, I didn't even have a name. I would walk down the halls and the jocks would hoot and holler, "I wanna bone your mom." Your mom is hot, and then came the questions: does it feel nice hugging your mom? How's her chest? Haha, I bet she's a sex maniac. Do you hear your parents doing it? I wanna come over and see. Gross. At first it really bothered me, especially if the guy commenting about it was someone I had a crush on. Lots of, "Hey Jeffleosaurus, tell your mom I said hi, D." Eventually I got over it, because the more I thought about it, the more I realized I was proud of my good genes, and that while my mother is gorgeous, she is also one of the kindest people I've ever been around. She bends over backwards to help those she loves, to the point that it's detrimental to herself. Sadly, despite being as hot as she is a forever lone recluse that works all the time, hangs out with family, or housebound. Not me, but my friend not only has a hot mom, but she also has the most adorable and lovable personality and is generally adorable and extremely lovable. She's a petite Korean woman who looks 21 even though she's mid-40s. Dresses amazingly well, Marni, Prada, Balenciaga, because her husband's a doctor in California, but still very humble and caring and nice. Anyways, her sons, my friends have written songs about her. He's made extra friends just because they've wanted to go over and see her in person because of all the gossip floating around school. They bring her up almost every time they hang out.